Hi, I'm John Feldt. Welcome to the Agricultural Weather Outlook. Now, first off, if you're new to the Outlook, I'd like to welcome you. Each week, I'm going to be looking at topics in weather, water, and climate in relationship to agricultural interests. Now, this week, for example, I'm going to be looking at the Arctic Oscillation. It's in a strong positive phase, and that's going to impact our weather for the next couple of weeks, probably into the middle of November. I'm also going to be talking about a rain-snow event that'll be impacting the upper Midwest. I hope you find the Outlook interesting. If you do, be sure to pass it along to others. Stay tuned to this week's edition of the Agricultural Weather Outlook. Let's take a look at the number of rain days in the last 7 days. Areas in green are areas that have received more days than not where there's been some rain. So you can sort of see that Missouri, parts of Kansas, and then off to the east has been a bit more active as far as rain days. Then we get up into the northern Midwest, North Dakota, Minnesota. Shades of brown, that's either showing no rain days or just maybe one rain day. Now we look at the maximum consecutive dry days, and this is over a 30-day period. It gives you some of the bigger trends. You see that area blue in North and South Dakota? Well, that's only 3 maximum consecutive dry days. So that's really been an area where there's been repeated type of rain events. We look into the Ohio Valley, Indiana, Ohio, we see 6 to 8 maximum dry days. So even though it's been recently a bit drier, there's been ample number of rain days in that area as well. Okay, now let's look at the last 7 days, the observed precipitation over the Corn Belt. What we see here is we see the most significant rain is indicated in yellow, and that's 2 inches or more. The red is actually 5 inches or more, so we had some very active thunderstorms in parts of Kansas and Missouri, actually even some severe weather, a tornado or so, and that extended up towards the northeast across parts of northern and far southern Illinois, and then off into Indiana, parts of Michigan as well. That was the heavier amounts of rain. Now up in the upper Midwest, North and South Dakota, Minnesota, most of Nebraska, quite a bit lighter rain. That blue is not really all that significant rainfall. Now, if we look at percent of normal, areas in red are below normal rainfall. Areas of blue and purple are above normal. You can see that streak of sort of a bright purple. That's 6 times normal rainfall for the week, and that was in the heaviest rain that extended from parts of Kansas and Missouri off towards the northeast. That area really needed some rain, so it was a welcome rain in that area. I know there's still a little bit of harvesting going on, but from a recharge standpoint of upper soil moisture, if the harvest is complete, that's an area that really does need several more inches of rain, and I will be talking about that in just a moment. Now, sometimes you have to go back a longer period of time to get a bigger picture, and this is the past 30 days. And you can see here that the Dakotas are really the area that has had the more significant rain from a longer term perspective. Everywhere else we've either had greens or sort of a lighter yellow, and that's been closer to normal. And really that's the story. As we went through summertime, very dry over much of the Corn Belt, then we got into fall, late summer into fall, and it's been a bit more rain and more widespread rain in a lot of areas. You can see Indiana and Ohio above normal rainfall for the last 30 days. Parts of Kansas and Missouri as well. But we still need some rain. Now this is how much rain is needed to bring conditions back to about a minus 0.5 or a neutral Palmer Drought Index or PDI. And this is one of the many graphs I'll be showing as we go through the winter to give us some assessment of where we stand as far as topsoil moisture. There's lots of these I'll be showing. This is one, very easy to take a look at how much rain is needed. And you can see anywhere from 3 to 6 inches of rain, maybe even a little bit more, centered over Iowa, northern Missouri. That's really been the dry spot, then extending over into northern parts of Illinois. If we look at the soil moisture percentiles, and this is from a weather model, you can see that the blue over the Dakotas is saying that it's actually right up there at 100% of needed topsoil moisture, but we still need it in those little pockets of yellow. But that's really improved quite a bit over the last month or so from where it was. We still need some rain, but it's better than it was just 30 to 60 days ago. Now here's the U.S. Drought Monitor. This is what I'm saying, where we need some more rain. These are drought impacts. You can see the orange color is a D2 or a severe drought. The lighter color of beige is a moderate drought or D1. So we have D1 and D2 and actually a tiny little pocket in Iowa of D3 extreme drought. Western parts of Nebraska and Kansas, more extensive drought. And then as we get into the eastern part of the Corn Belt, Indiana, Ohio, that's always been a bit better, but you can later in summer it did extend into that region. So right now this is another factor that we're going to have to keep an eye on as we go through the winter months. We want to get rid of as much of this as possible before planting begins again next spring. Okay, so let's talk about the outlook. Here are the current steering winds. The jet stream, sort of this broad jet stream coming in from the western U.S. and going into the east. It can be split into a northerly branch and a southerly branch, and when we get that, oftentimes we do get some significant rainfall like we saw last week. Now I want to talk about the Arctic Oscillation, and many of you new listeners here are going to be hearing me talk about some things you might not have heard about before. The Arctic Oscillation is an imbalance of atmospheric pressure, and it's one of many, and I'll be talking about several as we go through our briefings over the next number of months. This line is neutral, so if it's above this line, it's considered positive. If it's below this line, it's negative. And when I see these conditions, we tend to get certain types of temperature and precipitation anomalies when we get extremes of this Arctic Oscillation. Right now it's positive. It's a significant positive, and it's prolonged positive. And that's going to give me some clues as far as the weather as we go right through November. Now right now let's take a look at the jet stream for the next week. Blue is in the middle part of the week. Orange is later this week. We have this one area of energy pushing across from west to east. That's going to be bringing a cold front across the region and producing some modest type rainfall. Not as widespread as last week, not as much severe weather as last week, and most likely not as heavy of rain as last week, but still it will be going across a large part of the Corn Belt, and that will be producing some modest rainfall. Let's look a little bit further down the road, 8th through the 12th. A lot of dashed lines here. I want to explain these. This is the jet stream, and these are anomalies in pressure, or whether it's unusually high or unusually low. Many times we'll see some purple dashed lines. That's saying it's normal. When I see these lots of blue and lots of red dashed lines, that's saying there's some kind of anomaly or imbalance, and that red dashed lines means that it's going to be higher than normal pressure. That means the jet stream is going to be further north than usual for this time of year, and generally speaking, that means warmer and drier. Okay, so here's the rainfall forecast for the next 7 days. You can see with a cold front coming through, that upper energy, we're going to have an inch or so of rain over the middle part of the U.S. Corn Belt. Lesser amounts to the north, west, lesser amounts to the east. Here's a focused zoomed in look. The area in purple is 1.5 inches to 2 inches. Gives you some idea across Iowa and Wisconsin where the heaviest rain is expected to fall. Now, in addition to rain, there's also going to be snow. I wanted to show you some of the higher probabilities of an inch or more of snow. You can see this will be in the colder air, so there will be a mix of snow as we are getting into November here. Now, I'm going to look at a series of longer-term models just to give you a general heads up as far as what's going on or what's to be expected later in November. First one showing the total amount of precipitation as we go through November 13th, or roughly the middle part of the month. I generally look at the yellow as the more significant rain. So really, across the Corn Belt, the northern Corn Belt looks quiet. There's some action this week, modest rain, and then the eastern Corn Belt looks fairly quiet as well. So overall, I see this being a fairly quiet pattern after this rain that goes through this week. Wanted to show you, sort of break down November 10th through 17th. You can see a large part of the region is very quiet, maybe the very far upper Midwest. But once this rain goes through, this week's rain, it looks pretty quiet the following week. And then 8th through the 13th, maybe another modest rainfall event. But just my interpretation of these models really looks to me like it should be below normal precipitation after we get through this week, right through the middle of the month. Now, I mentioned with that positive Arctic oscillation, temperatures are likely to be above normal. Areas in red are above normal, so it looks like most of the Corn Belt can be expected to receive above normal temperatures, but the highest probabilities are generally over the southern and southeast U.S. So I think temperatures will most likely be above normal, or at least average above normal over central and eastern parts of the Corn Belt, but they look like they're going to be only modestly above normal, not extremely above normal. So take away one event this week moving through, then longer term trending warmer than normal and dry into mid-month. Now, if you're a new listener, keep in mind this week I have a midweek insight column going out around Wednesday. Thursday, my long range outlook. Now, please tell others about the Ag Advisor. It is a new service brought to you by the National Corn Growers Association and FMC Corporation. They can sign up. They're sponsoring it, so it's free of charge to you, and you're going to get a lot of information every single week throughout the year. You can sign up at this email or at this site right here. If you can't remember that, just remember john@bluewateroutlook.com. I'll send you an email and let you know how to sign up. Please pass this along to others that you know that are National Corn Grower Association members, and they can sign up at no charge. It's been nice talking to you this week. I'll be talking with you again next week.